All right. Good afternoon at this point, City of Rochester. Thank you once again for joining us for another episode of the Equity Alliance Equity Series. My name is Cham Motel. I serve the City of Rochester as a Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Director. I'm joined by my counterpart, Wafa El Khalifa, who serves Destination Medical Center as the Equitable Development Manager. And we're going to start in a little bit of a different way today. I want to kind of share sentiments because we know that we're all navigating a fairly difficult time within our community and communities across Minnesota. So I want to start out by saying, welcome and thank you for being here today. As we enter this new year, I think many of us had hoped that we were going to gather with a sense of possibility and forward momentum. And instead, we are coming together during a moment shared grief, uncertainty, and deep concern. Many of you are aware of the increased presence of immigration service, ICE, across Minnesota. This is not an abstract policy discussion. It is a reality that's being felt across families and neighborhoods, workplaces, and community organizations. For those of you who serve our communities, I want to say thank you. Whether that's through government, nonprofit work, advocacy, education, healthcare, or grassroots leadership, we're in a moment that asks a great deal of us. We're often holding space for others while navigating our own lived experiences, our responsibilities, and whatever fears that we might be carrying with us. We're asked to respond with steadiness and care in systems that don't always center humanity, even as those impacts might be deeply personal or immediate for many of us. So first, it's important to name the human and community impact that we're experiencing. Immigrant communities and communities of color are experiencing heightened fear, trauma, loss, often layered into existing inequities. In moments like this, centering humanity matters. So does acknowledging disproportionate harm and resisting narratives that dehumanize people or reduce complex realities into something easy to ignore. Secondly, we're asking that we ground ourselves in our roles, whatever sector we come from. Each of us has influence, responsibility, and opportunity to respond with integrity and compassion. That can look like creating supportive spaces within your organizations, listening closely to impacted communities and community-based organizations, recognizing lived experience as essential expertise, and sharing clear, accurate information so people understand their rights, their options, and how to engage safely. Community is really about coming together across sectors, staying rooted in our shared values, and exploring how we can respond in ways that reduce harm, that strengthen relationships and trust, and affirm dignity for everyone, especially in moments that come and test us like they are now. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for the work that you continue to do alongside our communities. And we're so grateful that today we are joined by Kim Sin. Kim has dedicated his work and time to creating supportive spaces wherever he goes. I met him when he was a student many years ago at RCTC. In his latest community effort, Kim has worked tirelessly to turn a long-held dream into a reality, establishing a cultural center that centers lived experience, fosters community collaboration, and creates opportunities for healing, learning, and collective growth. So just join me in welcoming Kim into the space so that he can share what his journey looked like across time, and now he's gotten to the space of bringing this dream into a reality. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Chao and Wafa, for inviting me to the Equity Alliance Equity Series. It's an honor, and I just want to say good afternoon, everyone, for taking your time and your busy schedule to really hear a story that about myself and about many of the people that live in this community, what we call a dream become a reality. So I'm just going to take you to a little bit of history, where I came from and why I'm here in Rochester, Minnesota. So with this, I will share my screen and we'll take you to my journey. Continue share. Okay. So a dream becoming a reality for the community. And this is one of the greatest accomplishments that I had, able to do, but it wasn't just me. It took a whole community to make it happen. But I'll take you to a little history of, okay, here we go. So I'm going to take you back to why I'm here in Rochester, Minnesota. So I'm going to take you back to 1975. On April 17, Cambodian civilization was destroyed by a group called the Khmer Rouge. And many of the people that are attending here, I know some of you know that a little bit about the history, but because of the Vietnam War that was happening in the Southeast Asia, there was a secret bombing that was occurred during that time. So Cambodia was dropped 500,000 tons of bomb, more than Hiroshima, during the Nixon time. And this allowed the Khmer Rouge to take power and overthrow the government. So people were forced to leave their home, was only to take small item just to survive for a week. That's what they were told. The government system was broken, and they say they were there to protect us, to make sure that our safety was not, you know, being um, killed or getting killed by the American. And people were being separated. Children were sent to different location. Parents were moved far away and to different part of the country. Education was forbidden. And why did they do this? And that was the question. It was to weaken and to make people listen and easy to follow and obey the command. And many of the people were innocent. And who were they? Well, they were more of educated people, people that were doctor, engineer, lawyers, teachers, business, government workers. And even if you had light skin, you were executed because you were considered wealthy. And the Khmer Rouge only kept those who were uneducated. And so they say that nearly 2 million people were executed and murdered, but in reality, the number was more than that. So that it could be up to 3 million people during that time was killed. And as you can see in this is one way that the Khmer Rouge was torturing innocent people, young kid. From even infant, they were thrown up in the air and used as a target practice. And parents were tied in the back, and then they would use a shovel and smash them in the head. And so our family had to take a risk because if they knew our family identity, the whole family was going to be executed. So my mom and dad, brothers, everyone decided to take a risk and escape Cambodia because it's no longer safe. And it was a really tough journey to, escape the jungle, especially during the monsoon season. Rain, mud, and all these other unpredictable things that you cannot foresee. Landmine. Cambodia has the largest landmine in the world. And one thing that I was surprised to hear is that Cambodian landmine was manufactured right in Minnesota. And I was surprised to know that when I took a group of college students to go study abroad in Cambodia. And there were a lot hidden trap. As many of us have seen the movie Rainbow 2, as he's going to the jungle of the Vietnam trying to rescue a lot of the soldiers that were being captured. And in there, it's the same thing that you would see, the hidden trap, especially the bamboo with the sharp spike. And you think it's a hard surface ground, but when you walk, you would plunge into the sharpened bamboo. And during the journey, there's a lot of health issue because people didn't have enough food. People were getting sick, and people were dying because of starvation. And the only resource to survive during that time is knowing what kind of plant to eat, what kind of root that you can harvest to feed your hunger. And anything that move were considerable edible during that time. It doesn't matter what it was as long as it moved. And when you're traveling, you need to know what path and all these things, because if you don't know where you're ending up to, either you're going to get captured by the Khmer Rouge soldier or you get shot by the Thai soldier because you were crossing to a point where that there were a lot of Thai soldiers were patrolling and they did not want any of the Cambodian entering their country. And they were putting soldier to kill a lot of the people that were trying to escape from Cambodia. And so you have to travel at night. And if there was an infant that was crying, they had to suffocate that infant because that would allow the Khmer Rouge to capture the whole group. And that would be a risk to the whole family. And part of the survival mode is knowing where to travel and what to eat. And it's a concern that, you know, it's a long journey, but once you get to the right destination, you'll find freedom. And because of dedication and persistent of not giving up, especially my mom, my dad, and my brother, older brother, we finally arrived to the refugee camp. As you can see in these photo here, every month my mom would have to sit in the sun and wait to get food distribution, and they did this monthly. And you have to set proportion each month so that way the food doesn't run out. And as you can see on the right side of the image are the houses that we had to stay. They are built next to each other. And so there was a lot of health issue. Even time had wrote sickness in the refugee camp. Many had died. And because of unsanitized, because people were going outside the hut for going to a bathroom, number one, number two, and there weren't enough food. So as a young kid, I was have to force myself to go and search for food at the garbage dump and in search of any good cookie or any food that are not spoiled. But sometimes there are spoiled food. As you are very hungry as a young kid, it doesn't matter. I need to eat in order to fill my stomach, even though it was bad, spoiled, and not edible. But to me at that time, it was. And finally, our family was able to get to come to the US. And the journey was not easy. We had to stay at different refugee camp. We had to be quarantined. We had to make sure our health, we didn't bring any disease into the US. And finally, I was assigned a number, Kimson. As you can see, a T with a number. And there was 9 of us in the family. And those are things that really, really, you know, made me understand the hardship of living in the US, living in the refugee camp, and how fortunate I am to be here in the US. Because back home, life for me, I didn't see a future. I did not see the light. It was darkness. But finally coming to America, I was able to see a future. Coming to America was not easy. I didn't have any knowledge of understanding English. I didn't know a word of English. And our family came here penniless, only a sack of clothes that we could bring, and picture of memories that we carry with us. And we had to come to a new country, a new culture, a new language. It was scary, and the future was unpredictable. How are we going to survive? Who's going to help us? And going to school was tough. I was getting bullied. I was getting beat up, jumped by my peers. And it was hard because I didn't know how to speak English. And all I could, was being a mute person, like trying to use sign language. But still, I didn't know sign language. And my teacher, principal, didn't understand me. And they always take side because they couldn't hear the whole story and what happened to me. And so I always end up you know, getting in trouble, and my parent was called to come and get me and discipline me. But reality, I was trying to protect myself. And eventually in fourth grade, I was able to, understand English. And I took the time to did show and tell. That was an opportunity for me to really share my story, my struggle. Especially, I didn't want to get beat up anymore. And so I told them about the situation back home, why I'm here, why I was forced to leave my country. And I was, called gook, go back to your country. We don't want you here. These words are hurtful. And still today, it's very hurtful to hear that. And when I go back home to Cambodia, I'm not Cambodian in my native land. So when I'm over there, they call me American. I don't look Cambodian. A lot of them mistaken me as another culture. So to me, I'm just a number that don't have a home. When I'm here, I cannot say I'm an American because of my color, my skin color, my culture. But Rochester has always been a home for me. And I want to see Rochester grow and be a safe city. As I continue my education, going to high school was tough. I didn't know how to read and write. So my ESL teacher took the time. I stayed after school, worked hard because I was, depressed and didn't want to learn English. I didn't want to go to school. And because I was being bullied so much that education was not the priority, but it was to find safety, to find a place to, protect myself. And as you know, back there in the 90s was a heavily gang involvement. It's because they were being bullied so much that they had to force a gang to create a gang so that they can be protected. And later on, the gang died out. And I continued to go to college. I went to RCTC, got my 2-year associate, and then went to Winona State University, got my 4-year. And I was employed at RCTC for almost 10 years. And I learned that education is the key to bring a lot of things. As my story in fourth grade had taught me that education can eliminate hatred, can eliminate people bullying you and beating you up because they really learn the story of where I came from. And many of the refugee and immigrant had the same experience, the same story as I'm telling you. And, education is the key to stop and to build a future for yourself. Like in the US, the harder you work, the better you become and able to do great things for yourself and the community. And, I'm currently employed at UMR, University of Minnesota Rochester, and I'm also here for 20 years. And I always love to work in higher education. And they had the higher education and getting to meet so many people, so many professors that make a lot of impact. And this is why I have dedicated so much of my time to give back to our community and to work with everyone that really, want to make our community safer. And I would not be able to do what I am able to do without a lot of the people that I got to know. And, I got to meet Allison Good. She was my first mentor. Don Sapala, um, George Thompson, Al Lunn, and the list goes on because, I was a young person, always eager and always hungry to learn and to make an impact in the community. But my mentor are the people that really make me become stronger, but to believe in myself. So wanted to tell a little story about the Rochester culture. How did it come? It took almost 20 years. Elle and I was sitting as we're waiting for the Rochester Air Foundation to start a meeting. and it was in the local downtown. And now it's the Winona State University campus there. As we're waiting, we're discussing like, hey, what are the things that are important in our community that we need? And Al said, hey, you know what? We need a representative voice on the table when our community need a person to be at the table. And I said, it would be nice to have a, cultural center. And the list goes on. And from that discussion, we start talking, but we start working on getting to where we want it to be at. So there's a lot of people that, Al and I and we met and we talked to a lot of the community member and leaders in making a place better for our community. So I'm gonna put it there, and I like to really engage and let people ask questions, and Chow will be the one that's going to be asking questions. So this way, I want more of a interaction than a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim. I'm really appreciative of you kind of sharing and especially your background and history. And I often think about that many people have stories. Lots of our migrant immigrant communities have stories, and each person has a unique experience that they're bringing to our community. And how important it is sometimes to sit down, have a conversation, get to know and understand those experiences, to learn what drives people, to get us to understand each other, but also to understand why they might have the visions that they have for the type of community that they want to live in. So, Kim, we're very appreciative of you sharing what must be kind of a difficult backstory, but a really informed backstory to why you're interested in a place like that cultural center. And one of the things that you shared with me in our initial conversation is that you wanted that cultural center to be a collection of education and experiences that everybody gets the opportunity to learn and share through that. So I just have some guiding questions. And if other folks have questions for Kim Sin as we're going through this, please throw them in the chat and I'll get to the ones that I get to. But I think firstly, if you just want to share what is the thing that inspired you the most about opening this cultural center beyond the wonderful conversation that you had with Al at Rochester Area Foundation?
Well, the reason really behind that is just that, I have involved in a lot of town meeting, a lot of survey. We did a lot of talking and working with the city leader, the county leaders, and, always wishing for something like the Rochester culture. And every time we talk about something, getting close, it seems like funding has been an issue that, we can't do this, we can't do that. We don't know if it's going to be successful. We don't know if this approach is going to be something that the community need. And eventually, I got burnt and I've been involved and put a lot of hour in identifying how can we find resource and money and all these things. Every corner that I go to, every organization I talk to, it seems like, we all struggling financially and unable to really support or start something that is can be great for the community. And so when the Diversity Council eventually, was dissolved, that was the most painful things for our community and for me as I was, you know, the beginning start as well when George Thompson was the person that was lead. Back then it was called Building Equality Together. And I was in seventh grade when I was involved with this. And to see Diversity Council, to see building equality together and then becoming a diversity council and being a part of that for so many years. And they had done so many impact. And I feel like we lost an organization that really made a lot of impact. So a few of my friends, we started to like, hey, let's put our investment, let's do something for the community. And so that was one of the thing is to have a cultural center, but it was to make it affordable and for people to continue to host a culture to bring more of knowledge and people to understand who we are as an immigrant and a refugee. if we keep on being silo and not sharing our community, because Rochester is well known for diversity, people coming from all part of the world. But then our city don't have something that can really showcase that. And
Okay.
that's why it's so important. But then the other one is the adult daycare, because that was a need I identified because a lot of time our senior need a place that they need their social activity, but for them to go to another senior place is language barrier. It's not understanding the activity or the food. And so this is why we also combine it with the adult daycare program.
And so you're saying during the week, from what you explained, during the week, you have an adult daycare where folks from all different backgrounds can come, and there's some
Mhm.
curated activities. Are you
Yep.
able to share some of the activities that are curated for the adult daycare um, time during the week?
Yep. So there's two component of the, during the day, there's one that is called the adult daycare, but then there's adult training that is
Okay.
led by ACLA, and that's a nonprofit that are here in Rochester. So the adult daycare is to really provide a safe place because a lot of the kid go to work and they're left home and they're isolated and they're building a lot of depression and mental health issue. And so we want to make sure that they're safe when they're cooking food, that they are not burning the house, because a lot of them also developing dementia. And then there's the war experience that's causing them to get nervous and scared and all these things. And so, how do we create a place that is safe? So, the adult daycare will provide that. We'll provide breakfast, lunch, and different activity from exercise. We want to make sure that they stay healthy. And then we'll
Mhm.
provide, like daily living, how to use the microwave, how to use certain thing, and experience and explore Rochester, because some of them never get to leave their house. They only stay in their small community neighbor, but they don't really get to explore what Rochester has to offer. So we want to, bring them to downtown, get a van and bring them to downtown and let them walk and see and participate in a lot of the activity that's happening in Rochester, because I attended one of the town hall. They're like, how can we get more of the community engaged in our local downtown? Well,
Mhm.
we don't have that service, and that's why the adult daycare will create that opportunity for are senior, but then eventually their kid will also be a part because their parents gonna talk, yeah, I went to downtown, I did this and did that, and then that's gonna create more, opportunity for people to see downtown. There's a lot of things, but the opportunity are not given to them. And so there's a little bit about the adult daycare, but AGLA is doing a lot of great thing that they're going to be putting program from, you know, job training is going to be one of the most important thing, because in order for our community to live and be able to afford to live and support their family, because workforce is so important. And I know I attended one of the DMC meeting and they projected that there's going to be a shortage of workforce within Rochester. And one of our initiative is the um, village agriculture cooperative. And a lot of our farmer, the reason they don't move to the Twin City, they say because they have land access. They can grow and feed their family. They say they cannot find that in the Twin City. And that would cost them more, but they want to keep their culture. They want to continue to feed their family, and they didn't want a handout. And
Yeah.
so a lot of you know, perspective of immigrant and refugee, oh, they need our help, but the certain help is provide what they need is land access for them to grow and support their community. A lot of them work, two job. Now they are able to cut down and work one job, and their children are helping them to farm. And now we start a program, Farm to Sell, and that's why we've been opening the farmer market. So
Mhm.
that's one of the component, but ACLA will also do, resume, technology training, and that's their program that they're going to be building. So we're partnering with them. But those are some of the things that ACLA had mentioned, hoping to, bring more expert to talk about things that are happening in our community, doing workshop. I'll be doing some of the workshop cooking class. So that way people experience the culture and storytelling. So it's a broad of things that are going to be happening. And the reason I, say this because when my time working in the community, I got, RCTC, Winona, UMR, other college that wants to go and engage with our community, but there's no place for them to really learn about
Mhm.
other community. Sometimes they can't just go to the temple, they can't just go to the mosque, they can't just go to a big event, but here, the Rochester Cultural Center will be a front door for people to connect and navigate and learn about each other so we can eliminate that fear. I think it's people have fear and misunderstand, but once we had eliminate that fear, I think our community is going to be a better place and we're not going to be scared of approaching each other. And I have done that model with with the village agriculture cooperative. People want to learn about another, so we put them in a plot that's next to other. And when you grow, you don't need to learn English. It's just learning how to plant. And they're able to connect. And some of the grower say that they're able to engage with other people that are different from their community. And I'm hoping to do the same with the Rochester Cultural Center.
Yeah. Kim, what a wonderful way to display what would be not just cultural and social impact, but economic impact in a beautiful way in collaborative structure, working with other community organizations.
Yep.
And Kim Sin, I often joke if you ask him what one thing he does, he goes in and gives you about 20 things. So just reflecting on some of the things in the chat, folks saying thanks for all you do. This is just a snip of the things that you do in Rochester, and that's really true. While I said thank you for sharing your impactful story and these initiatives, people and communities like you make Rochester stronger. So I just wanted to reiterate what's in the chat for those who haven't seen it. But Al, I appreciate you mentioning this idea that you and Kim Sin had presented this idea during the DMC Real Estate Summit when it was just a dream, and you were that in that inception point of thinking about the cultural center. I'm curious, what has been the most challenging part of getting to the point where you are and opening the center?
I think the challenging part is trying to get the permit. Rochester has permit and rule and regulation and all these things. And with the state, adult daycare is a huge headache. It's a lot of requirement. It's not easy to get all the paper, inspection, and then all the fire code, public
Mhm.
safety, and then you got, the fire marshal, and then the building permit. It's just like from one another. It's just like I was in a lot of stress load going through that process. And it's not easy. And I want to let people know that, starting a business in Rochester or doing anything is challenge. And I want everyone to know that, we have the SBDC that are able to, I'm one of the consultant and I'm, able to help and guide a number of business that start here in Rochester. And ACLA will be supporting a commercial kitchen. They're going to be funding a commercial kitchen at the center that's going to do a lot of other things. But, and we want to train our community to understand the process of before starting a business, what you need to put in place before they go and rent or sign a lease. They need to understand what they're going to have to go through. So we're going to map out for them. You need to consider this, do this. And, at the end, let's sign a lease. But creating a business, registering with the state of Secretary of State is the first thing. But getting the loan is another challenge. It's not easy as, even myself when I started the salon, the nail salon, it was
Mhm.
another. I was so frustrated that I had good credit, almost 800 credit score, and all these things, did my SBA loan, submitted everything. They said, nope, they can't, give me a loan. I wanted 60K. And that's like, I asked the bank, okay, if I can't get 60K, how much can I? Then they're like, yeah, you can get a micro loan for 40K. So I was approved for 40K. So I had to come up with another
20.
20K.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of roadblock. And how do we make that easier for our community? So we
Mhm.
need to create, you know, I know that it's hard to say, hey, this bank will work with you, that bank will work with you, but we need to create a list of bank that's gonna willing to, you know, give loan to a small business, especially people that are not making a lot of money, but they had ambitious to start the business. And I have a lot of people that want to start a business, but when they hear all these things, they're like, oh, it's too much for me to even think about it. So that's why I'm always thinking and creating like how do we make it easier? So I've gone through that, my own experience now, especially
Mhm.
the Rochester Cultural Center. It was a challenge. Now I can better understand how to really support other because this was the most challenge, project I work on. And I finally was able to get to understand all the roadblock and everything. So that was the most hardest, but then the community really supported me. I had a lot of meeting with people. I sometimes want to give up. I don't want to continue doing this, but they're like, hey, you're getting close. I think the moral support was very important. And I hope that the city, the county, and our local business continue to, support the effort. And I hope within 5 years, we'll have our own permanent building that we can do more and that we can also create something that the Twin City already done and bring it into Rochester so that way we can expand the growth of our economy here. As you gone to the Asia Mall,
Yeah.
they always pack it doesn't matter what time, they're generating a lot of tax revenue for their community. And I want to see that here. And I'm always hoping that 5 year, that home building that was the old Shopko, that one day we'll create that into similar to the Asian Mall, but also have the cultural center there. That's my within 5 year or 10 year. I hope that building is still there, and that would be a place that I would want to see a permanent home for the Rochester Cultural Center.
And then we'll host Dreams Become a Reality 2.0.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that challenge. And I think it's important for all of us to hear about some of the structural challenges because a lot of times the assumption is the challenge is only fiscal or monetary and that's it without thinking through all of the maybe permitting and more systemic things. So thank you for highlighting that, but also taking what was a challenge for you and turning it into learning for others, as only Kim Sin can do. I'm hearing here. I'll combine some of the questions I saw in the chat. Like what are some ways that organizations that are in this group or others can continue to be supportive of you in the moment that you're in now, but possibly as you go into this 2.0 phase in the future?
I think supporting our community in I think the About You survey is one of the things that, the DMC did back a while ago and looking into some of the survey about there. And the organization can look at what are the need that the community had expressed. The reason why we have the Rochester Cultural Center, one of the highlight was affordable rental space for people to host culture, but then also to bring food. So where, if it's a private party, we charge 500, but if it's a nonprofit, 300, and you can bring food. We do have food license that people can bring food and they can, serve at the center. And this eventually will create more of the cultural event so that our community at large can participate. And the other one that, you know, a lot of them want the program for training and all these things. A lot of parents don't understand about, the skyward, how to get involved with their school education. As you can see, the number of like Cambodian students that are graduating from high school and then going to college is very low. And so like 51% of school are not doing well. And when they do graduate from high school, they're not going to college. And we need to really get them to be successful. That way they can go to RCTC, Winona, UMR, whatever college, so that they can contribute back to the community here. A lot of them go to work in the manufacturer job, and then some of them, are falling down and can't support their family. And then the cycle is just keep on spinning because a lot of them need support from the community, like job training that ACLA is hoping to do and working with the workforce development. How do we do that? Because we want to, if they're failing, if they're struggling, we need to get them to a training that, help them to get a start and then realize after 3, 4 years, they realize, hey, I need to go back to college and get a degree. And that's what we want to do is giving them the reality, but then the support part of it is that there's an organization like UGLA and other. And I know that a lot of we are very fortunate to have a lot of nonprofit organizations like the Rochester Area Foundation and, like the CMAC, they contribute and help us to continue to, you know, put program for the community. And so those are the things that we need, like the United Way as well. And every dollar that goes into building program and partner, you can partner with us and build program. And it's more important that the impact is to see like, how do we get people to believe in other organization? I get asked a lot about that. Hey, they don't know anything about our organization. This is the time to partner and work together and have the Rochester Cultural Center with other nonprofit. And you're going
Yeah.
to build that trust because within our community, there's a loss of trust. And they cannot trust other organization if they don't even have trust within ourselves. And this is one way to do that.
Yeah. I do want to elevate Tawanda's comment in the chat. She says, I'm seeing several communities coming together to create what I would call a mini mall. They are renting office spaces, and different business owners have their own office that operates as a retail store. I would love for our community to have a cultural mall under one roof, which, Kim Sin, I think that's what you're describing when you're talking about that future state that you're envisioning.
Yep.
And so I would perhaps say that maybe that's one of the opportunities for collaboration and partnership that you might be thinking about.
Yep.
Um, how and when would you like folks to reach out to you if they have an interest in partnering or collaborating with you on this Rochester Cultural Center?
Yeah, I think they can, email me. There's a website that the Rochester Cultural Center.com, and then it would be just sending email, and then I would put it on, the agenda or things that are goals that we need to do.
Mhm.
And, and I've talked to Wayne John about this multiple time about the global market, you know, and the concept is to create that small section. And before the Kmart was demolished, and we were hoping that we would get that to kind of experience what it's like if it's successful or not. But when I talked, they already had a plan, so that kind of died out. But I'm not giving up on that global market because
Mhm.
I'm gonna continue to, if it's taking another 20 years to make it become reality, but I believe in our community that's not gonna take 20 years. I think it's gonna be like the most is 10 year. And I believe that this is something that our community need. And it's going to create a place that, we are the destination medical facility, but what do we have showcase for people that are here as a patient But when they're here with their family, what do we have for them to experience in Rochester? There's a lot of great thing in downtown, but sometimes we want to bring experience that are back home. And
Mhm.
that experience is the global market. You got small stall places, things for people to look that are from different cultures, so they feel like it's home. Right now, they're away from home, and that's going to make them homesick. They don't want to stay here. They don't want to spend their money here. How do we keep them and make them spend money? And
Mhm.
that will come back to our community. And that's where the global market will do that. And I talked to Al and a lot of community leaders and even Julie and Miriam, because
Yeah.
we can bring that here.
Yeah. And we've talked across the board about, culture, about social impact, about economics, which is kind of where we are now. Want to shift back a little bit as we're thinking about, systems and equity. Um, at the very beginning, we said that for many BIPOC communities, migrant immigrant communities, they carry such deep and rich stories with them. And so I'm wondering, what role do you feel like cultural spaces like the one that you have, how do they contribute to healing and civic engagement and social change?
I think having a place for them to call home is very important and gathering because a lot of time they don't have a place to gather and to really, socialize and get together. And some of them, you know, they only host at their house. And when they do that, they only can invite small group. And then at the temple or at the mosque or at places, they're there to pray and give offering but then there's no interact and social activity happening to long talk discussion about the future of their community because they're hello here. As you can see, when you're at an event, it's mostly, hi, nice to meet you. It's great to see you. And, you know, hey, let's get together. Let's talk about this. But then we don't really get to really go in depth because we're
Yeah,
there to just, for a short time of period. But when you have a place where they can engage and we're open if they want to use it for a meeting, for other discussion, and the parking is easy. And a lot of time I'm asked like, hey, we have the space in downtown that they can utilize. Parking, it's really hard. Navigating through which building is that? We want it easy access, easy for people to go in and out and not have to be lost. But eventually people will understand how to navigate through downtown and utilize the space that are available. But right now, it's very, very hard because
yeah,
parking.
it's
So
difficult. Yeah.
yeah.
I want to offer the opportunity. I know some folks have been utilizing the chat, but this is a time for you as well, as folks who've joined, to ask any questions or maybe even offer a reflection. I see some reflections in the chat, but if anyone would like to unmute and ask a question or share a reflection, please do so now.
Uh, Okay, since
Kim?
my name is mentioned several times, and by the way, we acknowledge what Kim has done. I mean, he basically put into practice and make it a successful realization of our dream. I was one of the dreamers, been, kind of advocating the notion, and Kim did all the hard work, basically.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, I'd like to just to again remind ourselves the Cambodian experience that we've heard so heartwarming, such personal experience of struggle and success. That journey is really shared by all the immigrant refugee groups in our community. And we shouldn't forget humanity and the struggle and the empathy that we should share with all these groups, particularly in our current situation, that is easy to isolate them, to demoralize them, and to point out some examples uh, of failures, perhaps, but they're mostly individual. But the majority of all the immigrants and refugees have really done their share to really contribute to America's success. So I want to make sure that we understand that. And also the fact that the Culture Center, and I know Kim Sims shares that idea about we want to hear each other's story. we have all the different cultural groups and immigrant groups that we find a place that we all can get together and now start hearing other story, and then we find out that we are all the same. We all go through the struggles and with the learning, and we can all contribute together to really make America and the success it is destined to be. So I guess I wanted to share that particular thing. The culture center is unique in the sense that we are enabling the fact that groups can get together and so that they don't just stay in their own lane. Because we all know that we just, if I stay in our own place, and we tend to just become too isolated and
Yeah.
become. So I think that is, I think the benefit of the culture center. I want to just
Yeah.
make that point,
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Al, for that reflection. Yep. Julie?
Okay. Yep. Kim, thank you so much. I told you before they're going to name something after you at some point in your life. But I wanted to know what's your immediate need for the cultural center? I know that you probably need a lot of things, including getting that kitchen up and running. So please let us know what the immediate need is.
I think first it was the chair table, and we still need that. We
Yeah.
want a better condition. We got a lot of people donate chairs and tables for us to use now, but we wanted to make it more multi-usage, because what we have is like heavy, and the table is heavy. But that is one thing. Commercial kitchen. I know that Akla Miriam is working hard to secure the funding to build a commercial kitchen this June. That's gonna be a huge, and it's gonna bring a lot of entrepreneurship in food, because I know a lot of people had talking to me, and that's why Miriam, and she's working on this grant, because a lot of
Yeah.
people want to experience the food, because our community is so diverse, but then there's not an really food option. And we want to create that, and we want to see more of our community, but then working with the city and the county, like identifying some of the location and places and making it affordable, because I met so many community member that are really creative, and we need a MDA facility to create. My dream is to have Rochester be a food hub distribution to other part of the state. Why are we importing a lot of ingredient and stuff where a lot of our community can manufacture a lot of these and bringing the revenue back into our state here? Because we can do it, but we have to have a MDA facility that mass production. And I was able to meet Barack, who created this amazing automatic cooking system. He designed it, and it's in his garage, and he's looking for a warehouse to manufacture, and he can distribute a lot of these flatbread throughout the US, but we don't have affordable warehouse to do this, or a facility that will meet the requirement of an MDA kitchen.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you for that, Al. Looking at time here, about 5 more minutes, so perhaps time for one more reflection or question, and then we'll do a quick closeout. And if none, Kim, I will direct you to some of the things that have been shared in the chat. We'll try and collect that information and share it with you in terms of resources that are available to you and others. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Kim, Sin, we are grateful for the opportunity that you have shared with all of these folks, right? And the work that you have done, continue to do within our community in all of the different ways. I just want to bring us back and ground us in the beginning of this session, where we talked a lot about the current moment that we're in. We've received a lot of requests and questions, perhaps about resources that can be shared to support migrant immigrant communities. And so I do want to share that the City of Rochester does have a resource page. This is not to say that this is the be all end all of everything, and it is not legal advice, but we worked with community partners to ensure we had as much as we could possibly have in terms of what people can look at to know their rights, as well as legal assistance that exists for folks. And then at the very bottom, some frequently asked questions that we're receiving. I will put this link in the chat. You can utilize it. But I also want to invite other community organizations that are supporting or serve or a grassroots organizations that are compiling their own resource pages or have their own activities. If you want to put that information in the chat for folks to access, that way people who are reaching out and saying, I would like to do something and I would like to support, but I don't know where to go, please feel free to put that in the chat, and we would welcome that information to be consolidated and shared as people would please to do that. As we close out, I do want to remind everyone, and thank you, Wale, you just put it in the chat, that January 19th, Martin Luther King Day, there will be a breakfast that is hosted. You do need to sign up. So Wale, thank you for putting that information in there. If you want to go in and sign up for that breakfast, as well as other activities that will follow.
And Chow, if I could just share there, so the breakfast is in the morning, and then in the afternoon we have the Community People's Program. We have an excellent keynote speaker that's going to be joining. I'll be giving the community call to address. We are going to be featuring families that have been impacted by all this going on, and we're looking to build community and resilience. So hope you can join us.
Thank you, Wale. And thank you to everyone who was able to join us today. We will be sharing additional information depending on what we collect from the chat here. But I wish you a good day, and grounding us back to what we said in the beginning, that community is about shared care, right? Acknowledging and seeing each other and doing our best to serve each person, regardless of what they look like, where they come from. And we're glad to live in a community that hopefully is doing that and treating each other with dignity. Have a good afternoon.